In this episode, we are talking about decisions, fear, and missed opportunity. All right, everybody, welcome back into another episode of the Do Things Podcast. I am your host, Todd Frazier, as always, and I've got a special treat for you. Today, we've got my good friend, Aaron Zapata, with us on the podcast. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great. Zapata.
I love saying your last name.
Viva Zapata. Yes.
So, you're a parent like I am, and I'm assuming you've seen The Lion King a lot of times.
I have.
Right. And whenever I say your last name, I always picture the scene where the hyenas are there, and one of them says, Mufasa, and he says, say it again. It's Mufasa. And like that. That's what I picture.
That's awesome. Okay.
So I picture Mufasa when I think of Aaron Zapata.
There we go, but I have no hair.
That's okay.
All right, I'm not the Lion King.
That's right.
I don't have enough hair for that. My mane is gone.
Your mane has disappeared, but that's okay.
Yes, that's right.
That's all right because you still invoke images of lions.
Thank you.
That's important. That's
okay,
important.
Good.
So we are here at his office, Impact Properties in Placentia.
Yep.
And we're going to be talking about decisions, fear, and missed opportunities because
Absolutely.
I think that's a huge problem everywhere you go. No matter who you talk to, they're always worried, concerned, or afraid of what's going to happen because they do or don't decide something, right?
Absolutely. You know, we all approach life and we just we decide. Unfortunately, we hesitate on big decisions. Right. It's not like going out to dinner where you're trying to make a decision with the kids and like, where do you want to go? And everyone's like, no.
Those are the worst decisions.
Right. But no, we make them so easily.
Yeah.
Because we know the outcome is not going to be life-threatening or life-changing, right? And so we just make that no big deal, no fear. We go out to eat, we come home, and you don't go like at the end of the day and you're like, honey, when we were making that decision today about going out to dinner, it was a real struggle for me, and I had all these fears and anxieties. Like that doesn't happen.
No.
Right?
No.
But when it comes to other decisions like career choices, like starting a blog, like putting up a website, going out there and exposing yourself to new opportunities and experiments with jobs and you're doing a vlog and all that stuff. We tend to add to those decisions like this way inordinate amount of fear.
Yes.
Like just too much fear.
To ourselves. We do it to ourselves.
Right. And so we get stuck not making any decisions at all.
Now,
which really is a decision.
That really is a decision to not make a decision, which is not the kind of decisions that we want to make.
Right.
But I think that's interesting. When you brought this up, you wanted to talk about decisions. I felt like in your industry, when someone's buying a house, that's a big decision.
Right.
And you probably deal with that on a regular basis of, well, I like this house, but I don't like this feature. Or like there's a lot that goes into that.
Sure.
And it is an important decision. But at the same time, nothing's going to be perfect.
Right.
Like, especially with, I know when we've looked at houses and we've looked at what we like and we don't like, there is never, ever a perfect house.
Correct.
It just doesn't happen. You can't find everything you want in one single house product decision, right?
Right.
And I think that's something that we have to come to grips with when we start worrying, we start getting this anxiety of, I can't make a decision. Well, why is that?
Well, and I think from the house buying psychology, it's I'm afraid I'm going to make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
I'm going to live in this house, and I see it as a 30-year decision because I'm going to get a 30-year mortgage. And so we decide not to decide, or we add just so much unnecessary mental angst to the process that you can't even decide on anything. So when I'm out with clients, something I do to help them determine which house is the right one. Because imagine you look at 20 houses.
Yeah, there's so many.
And now you got 20 options. And now you're like, oh, my word, I don't know which house is the right one. And they're trying to remember if the first house had green carpet or if it
had... They all get blended together.
They get blended. And so like in their mind, they have this house that doesn't exist. Because they've blended. Right. And so when I go through the day and I show, it's not uncommon to show 20 houses to somebody. And sometimes we'll show 10 in a day. Whoa. And try to remember that. That's a lot, right? Yeah, absolutely. I just did this last Sunday.
Yeah.
And so after the first one, we'll go to, I'll ask them if they like it. And they don't know because they haven't compared it to anything.
Sure.
And so we go to the second one and I say, okay, which one do you like better, first or second? And I ask both husband and wife, and sometimes they have a different answer. And I just, whatever they pick, the first or the second, I say, okay, we're going to totally forget about the one that's not your favorite so far.
Okay, just like drop it off the list.
Completely. Yeah. Don't remember anything about it. It never existed. This is now your number one. And then we go to the third house, and they say, which one do you like better, the third one or your number one? And they say, well, we really like number one. Okay, we're going to forget about this house. And so at the end of the day, we really have a number one and a number two.
Yeah.
And then it makes the decision easy.
Sure it does.
Because they've eliminated all of the distractions and all the fears that they're buying the wrong house, because now then in an emotional, in a subconscious way, they've eliminated many of the houses that they were afraid of making the wrong decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you get that, like you said, 20 houses, and I was like, man, I'm overwhelmed just hearing that number.
Right.
But when you do it like that and you methodically kind of go through, okay, one at a time, let's do one thing at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Right.
Look at one house.
Right.
Look at the next house. Compare, and then make like mini decisions adding up to this larger decision.
Remember, where I learned this was at my eye doctor.
Okay. Oh, better one or two.
Yeah.
Better three or five.
So they put on the lens, and it's like A or B. And they're like, I'm not sure, go back. A or B. Okay, A. Okay, A. One little adjustment. One or two.
Yes.
One or two. And at the end of 18 adjustments, they're like, okay, your prescription is, and you can see clearly.
And you actually never made any large decision. You just made a single small
little decisions.
Oh my. That's brilliant.
Mind blown.
That's it. that's and I think that is something that we get so caught up in, especially in the fear part and the anxiety, is we get overwhelmed.
Right.
Because it feels like it's either it's so impactful because it's a long-term decision, or there's so many options that we can't decide.
Right.
But if we can break it down and say, I'm just going to do this little step.
Right.
I'm just going to look at this one thing, and then maybe I'll make a small decision.
Right.
And my brother in college, he was in Kansas. He's 19 years old, and him and his buddy decided to drive home for the summer. Just the two of them, 19-year-olds in the car driving back, 2,000 miles. And the thing that he said when he told me that, I was like, man, that's the pretty tall order for two 19-year-olds that are just punk rock kids, like driving across the country
with no money.
And he goes, with no money, exactly. He goes, we're gonna do it in 24 hours straight. I was like, no, you're not. No, you're not. He's like, no, we totally are. But you know what we're gonna do? We have mini victories. Every time we get like 100 miles, mini victory. So like they had these little like landmarks that gave them a feeling of, oh, we accomplished something. We accomplished something. I think we take that same attitude, just like you're saying, like what I like the Optimist Wrist thing. That's a great illustration. Better one or two. And most of us have had our eyes checked. Hey, hold on. PSA, if you haven't had your eyes checked, you need to have your eyes checked. Here's a true story. So in high school, I played football, I played baseball. I was pretty good at both. I had an opportunity to do college at both. But it wasn't until I was 24 years old that I went to the eye doctor, and I found out I had astigmatism. I needed glasses.
To the astigmatism
right?
Club.
And as soon as I heard that, 24 years, I'm not going to go back and do anything. But the first thing I heard is, if I had known I needed glasses in high school, you know how many curveballs I could have hit out of right field? Like, I'm just...
Sure.
Like that to me says, if you have an opportunity to know your weakness or know where you need to steer clear or what strength you need to push into, what decision you need to make based on some small little thing that really isn't difficult.
Right.
That's huge.
Absolutely.
We got to break it all down, bite-sized pieces.
Break it down.
We like donut holes, right?
We do.
I mean, I like real full donuts too. I guess I really shouldn't. We give them out at church.
The real whole donuts don't have any calories because they put them in the donut hole.
That's right.
And they take them out.
Right.
Yes.
Does that mean if we eat the donut holes, then we get all the donut calories?
It does.
All right, so I'm swearing off of donut holes.
Yes, swear off.
Only full donut holes.
Right,
Full
donuts.
Donuts with the hole.
Right.
Now, what about when I eat my apple fritters? Like, is that a problem?
Well, that is like 12 times the calories, but totally worth it.
Totally worth it.
They're my favorite. They're my favorite.
They're your favorite too?
Absolutely.
Oh, they're by far the best.
But you can only eat them one bite at a time.
Yes. You can't eat
one little bit.
Can you imagine
at a time
putting an entire apple fritter in your mouth? Like, I just got a visual. Oh, that would hurt. Like the sides of you can't do it.
No, one bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Yes.
Just like with everything.
Decisions.
Small decisions.
Yeah.
Better one or two.
So in looking at any decision, you break it down into what you can control right now.
Yes.
And
which is very little.
It absolutely is. Like when you're buying a house, which can you control today? I know where I want to live. Kind of.
Right.
I want to know in the general city, in the general neighborhood, but I don't know what houses are out there.
Yeah.
So we've made little decisions. Okay, we're going to make a decision to go look in this neighborhood, in this town, in this school district. Great. We've got some big decisions off the table now.
Yes.
Now we just got to go find the right house, and we got to dial it in, just like that optometrist. And say, well, is it this house or that house? And what I find is that when I ask customers this, and they say, well, we really like this one, I said, why do you like it? They don't know.
No.
They don't know.
Really?
Because they haven't eliminated the options. And so by the end of the day, I am more in tune with what they're looking for than usually they are, because I have been able to piece the puzzle together throughout the day to look at really what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I showed my brother a lot of houses, and he knows this, but by the third house, I knew what he was looking for.
Okay.
And what he was looking for, no, he didn't, but I did, because I was piecing it together. He was looking for a house that when you opened the door, you could see through the living room, through a portion of the kitchen, through the back room, and into the backyard.
Oh, wow.
Like, it was that visual line of sight, open feeling that provided some distance as you walked in through the front door. So if we walked into a house that had like a pony wall and it created that closed feeling right as you walked in, I knew he wouldn't like it. And sure enough, he didn't.
Okay.
And so by the end of, a week period of looking at houses, I knew which house was the right one for him. And I kept taking him back to it. I'm like, you got to go back to this one. And a couple of other elimination of some choices. And sure enough, that's the one he bought.
That's awesome.
Because I knew what he was looking for.
Now, do you think that because I feel like a lot of our decisions, especially the fear and anxiety, comes from an emotional standpoint?
Absolutely.
If you can take the emotion out of it and look at it logically,
right,
it's usually not as overwhelming. Still 20 houses, even without an emotional standpoint, that's a lot of houses.
Right.
But when you add the fact that these people are going through and they're like, I'm going to live here. This is going to be my life. This is going to be my home, my children's home, all that stuff. There's an emotional component to that you really can't really take it away,
right?
But you have to figure out how to realize that,
right? And
then, or have somebody that doesn't have the emotional connection help you.
Well, and you talk to a lot of young people, right? In what you do, and you see that emotional component is piled on, not so much by their own fears, but by expectations that others have put on them,
100%.
Or the perceived expectations. Like they think, I have to do this, I have to be so good, I have to go this direction because my parents want me to, my teacher said so, whatever. My friends did it, and they're all doing, they're all going to that college. Maybe I should apply to that college. And so you get that huge emotional burden instead of just stopping and saying, okay, the decision I make today is not likely to completely impact the future direction of my family or my life. When I went to college, I went to Biola, and I switched majors 3 times.
Did you really?
Yeah, I went in as a Bible major, and then I switched to intercultural studies, and then decided I didn't really like that, so I went back to Bible. So that's like, twice, I guess.
Yeah.
But back and forth, played the little tennis match there, and still got out in 3.5 years.
Jeez.
Just cranked it.
Man.
Summer school, interterm sessions.
Yeah.
School all the time for 3.5 years.
That's a lot of school.
But I didn't go into the ministry.
Yeah.
Okay. So had I feared about the outcome of my degree, I would never have even chosen those degrees.
Right.
But God saw it otherwise, and now I'm in real estate.
Right.
I run my own company, and I'm an entrepreneur. I ended up getting a master's degree in business. I ended up getting my broker's license, right? So had I poured too much fear and been paralyzed way back when I was starting college, I wouldn't have been here today because I could have been stuck worrying.
Yeah.
And I remember being in college, and I was like 19, right? And there was a 28-year-old in one of my classes.
Okay.
Now, that's a big age gap when you're 19.
I'm like,
this dude's
10
old,
years, like way old.
This guy's way old.
He's probably got kids. And
he wasn't. He was a single guy. And I'm like,
Right.
What are you doing in college? And he says, well, I've changed my major like 6 times, and I really like school. And like this guy wasn't moving on.
Right.
He was just stuck in that, I don't know what I'm going to do afterwards. And so he just kept taking college classes and never accumulating any of them in any specific concentration to graduate. And I'm like,
holy cow.
Biola is very expensive for that.
Extremely expensive. Biola is a private school, by the way, for you guys that don't know. It's a great school, but private schools are not cheap.
It's not cheap. It's one of the most expensive private Christian universities.
Is it really?
Yeah.
More than Point Loma?
I think so.
Okay, because just from a view standpoint, Point Loma is ridiculous right
Absolutely.
On the beach. Right?
On the ocean.
Oh.
Right, yes. It is very expensive.
Yeah.
And that's a very expensive decision to make because of fear, just to stay in school, not to just finish something.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, and I think it goes back to your point, like the decision that you think is going to be so life-altering and changing. And if I make the wrong one, I'm never going to be able to make it right.
Right.
Well, you had a degree that you're not using. I have a degree that I'm not using. I was a math education major. I was going to be a teacher. Now I'm an entrepreneur, vlogger, speaker, CPA. Like that, nothing to do with my degree.
Right.
Zero.
And that's what I'm talking about. It's in fact, you and I are talking about, you're like, what topic? I'm thinking the impermanence.
The impermanence of decisions.
Of decisions. Because our decisions, unless they're public and they're really stupid decisions.
Yes.
Right.
Which
like
should
if you
be fairly obvious.
Yeah, right. If you go out in public and you do something stupid and they capture it on film, like that's a decision that's going to haunt you the rest of your life. I'm not talking about those.
Right.
I'm talking about life decisions, career decisions, even business decisions. Because business owners get stuck in that paralysis as well.
Yeah.
I don't want to decide. I don't want to invest that money. And what I realized when I was younger is you kind of grow a tolerance to the decisions and the outcomes as you get older.
Yep.
So I used to make decisions at my old job, and like about $3,000 was like the most that the company would lose because of my decision-making ability.
Gotcha.
Right? So if I bought a software program and it didn't go well, it was about $3,000
your
investment,
threshold.
right?
Yeah.
And I was okay with that, right? I was okay with that bad decision costing me money. But there are some people that get so caught up in making $25 decisions.
Yes.
Like, what if I buy the wrong
Headphones,
microphone,
like these,
or the
these
wrong
headphones
earbuds,
are $15.
right? And you go through like all the options over a $15 decision. Like that's not that much.
Right.
Like let's mature a little.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next level.
Right.
And so now my decisions, they can cost me tens of twenties of thousands of dollars that I make as the business owner. But I've grown in my tolerance to fear as we make those decisions.
And you realize also the ones that do work, the return is so much greater.
Absolutely.
Than if you had not done it. If you had lost that and didn't take the chance that you were going to succeed, it's so much worse.
Well, and that's what creates the missed opportunities.
100%.
You don't act on something because of fear of loss, which eliminates any chance of gain.
100%.
Because you're not there.
Yeah.
You just said, I'm not putting my hat in that ring because I may get beat up.
Yeah.
Well,
the what ifs. The what ifs kill you.
They absolutely eliminate any opportunity.
And I feel like we put so much emphasis on the what ifs, and I think we forget the fact that they're what ifs. They're not certainties. The odds of the what ifs happening are usually like the most minute.
Right.
Usually the thing that you worry about is worst case scenario, and the thing that would take you to worst case scenario is so extraordinary, astronomical that there's a better chance that you're going to succeed in what you try.
Right.
I believe.
So let's go through an exercise.
Yeah.
Someone is making a decision and they don't know what to do. So one of the coaches that I followed, he says, let's do this mental exercise. He said, what's the best case scenario? And let's just paint that picture.
Yeah.
The best case, everything goes right. I strike it rich. I, have no problems along the way, and I retire in 3 years. Like, that's the best case scenario. What's the worst case? I lose my house. I die, or whatever. Right? The worst. Like, we all fear death.
Yeah.
Right. Really, we do.
Right.
We like, well, it's going to go wrong. I'm going to lose the money. I'm not going to be able to afford my paycheck. So my house is going to go into default. I'm going to get my house foreclosed on. I'm going to be sleeping in my car. I can't afford that. They're going to come tow it. I'm going to be homeless, and I'm not going to buy food. I'm going to die.
Right.
Like, we all do that.
The end of it.
Right.
The end of it.
We all die. We all die. So that's like the other side, the worst case scenario. And then let's just be realistic. Our mind and our experience teaches us that's going to be somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
And are we okay with that? Are we okay if we don't have the ultimate perfect result? And are we pretty much sure that it's not going to result in death?
Right.
Okay, we can live with that.
Yeah.
Let's make the decision.
Absolutely.
Let's move forward.
Right.
And if something doesn't work out along the way, guess what? We live in a free country.
That's right.
We get
have
to
options
make another
still.
decision.
It doesn't end there.
Yeah, like I started my company with my own name, Zapata Realty. And I already had the corporation. It was more of a silent corporation, and so it wasn't public. Nobody knew about the name. But then when I went out on my own and left the umbrella of my other broker, like all of a sudden I had to pick a name. And so I just stuck with it. And I stuck with it. And for the first 2.5, 3 years, it was fine. But then I wanted to grow. And so guess what I decided to do?
Uh-oh. You made a decision.
Change the name.
There we go.
Seriously, like
Yeah.
went down to the IRS, went to the Secretary of State, filled out the paperwork, and said, I'm changing
Wait,
the
hold
name.
on. You just said something that probably doesn't connect with most of the people here that have ever started a business. You actually had to go to a physical place and write on papers.
Not physically, but I had to fill out paperwork and send them in.
Right. It wasn't online like
Well, it was
send it to
download it
LegalZoom
and then mail it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I got notices in the mail that said, we've received your paperwork and we have approved your name change.
Yeah.
And here's your new name.
I'll tell you what, the most unadvanced organization in the world is the IRS. Being a CPA and dealing with them all the time, it's still ridiculous how it's paper all the time.
All the time.
I mean, that's just what it is. But we can't change
I just
that. We
had
have no
to
control.
fax something over to them this week. Mm-hmm.
Honestly, fax is the best. You're laughing at this maybe if you're listening. The faxing the IRS is the fastest way to get them information and to get a response.
Okay, for some of you may not know what a fax is. It's when you put paper into a machine and it converts it over the internet or over a phone line.
Over a telephone line.
Yeah.
Over dial-up.
Well, mine's electronic.
Mine's email that converts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it pops out on the other end as a document.
Yeah, and it probably comes out in a dot matrix printer over there.
Maybe. Do people know what that is?
Probably not. We don't. We should do a history lesson.
You're struggling.
We should do a history lesson. All right, Aaron.
In case you didn't know, this is Todd Frazier.
Yes, right.
He is an
I'm a historian.
Archaic.
I'm a historian. I live in the past. I have trouble making
He and I
decisions.
were born without iPhones.
No, I know.
Before cell phones.
True.
Before like this kind of
this didn't
device,
exist.
Before handheld operating camera.
It's so funny talking to people that I have a 19-year-old with 21-year-old brother now, but he doesn't know life without a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So welcome to the world that you live in.
Welcome to the world that you live in.
Unlimited potential.
Hey, but all you got to do is take one bite of the apple fritter at a time.
Absolutely.
Don't eat the whole thing.
Not the donut
Little
hole.
decisions, not the donut hole.
And so just, you started out talking about fear and basically the missed opportunity in making decisions.
Yep.
If I could encourage anybody, you got to go through that exercise.
Yeah, I
Look
like
at the
that.
best, the worst. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. And don't believe that decision is something you have to stick with your whole life.
Yeah.
Okay, there are some people that start a book and reading a book and they have to finish the book, or they feel like they've dissed the earth, or they failed the author or whatever. But
like the author's ever going to know.
Right. I bought the book. I should finish it.
Yeah.
You don't. You don't have to finish the book. I have started books, not finished them, and I don't feel bad about it.
Good.
Okay, but there are some people that
that is the thing.
They grind through it. But that's, again, that mindset that I've already made this decision. I have to stick with it, and I'm going to finish it through.
Right.
As small as reading a book. You can practice. If you have a fear of making decisions, do something like that.
Something small. Yeah.
Stop the book you're reading if you don't like it.
Right.
Just go to the end, read the cliff notes, and read the back book cover,
there's
and be satisfied.
A YouTube video with a summary on it somewhere. Yeah.
Just be satisfied with
Move
it.
on.
Move on.
Yeah.
And then feel the freedom
of
having made a decision and then changing your mind.
Yeah. I think giving yourself permission to change your mind is like 100% of the battle. It can't be 100%, but that mindset of saying, I'm going to make this decision, but I'm okay changing my mind.
Right.
I change my mind all the time. Like we talked about doing this for 2 weeks and then we couldn't make it happen. We couldn't connect, but we finally said, you know what? We're just going to show up. I'm going to bring the microphones and we're going to talk, because that's what a podcast is.
Well, and you at some point decided to do this podcast.
Yeah.
And you may be considering a podcast or a vlog, right? And you're trying to make all these huge decisions. What camera do I buy? Buy a camera.
Use your phone.
Use your phone.
That's
what phone should I use? Your phone, the one you have in your hand, the one your parents gave you.
Now, unless it's a flip phone that doesn't actually have any way to do those things.
Stop using historical terms.
You were
so historical here.
I was at the Smithsonian this summer, so I'm thinking of the history.
Yeah,
right.
Right. Stop it.
Julia Childs.
It doesn't exist. A Razor, a Motorola Razor.
Oh my goodness.
What?
Do you remember it? So
Google it.
Go to
YouTube.
We should have a whole nother episode about our first cell phone.
Yeah, we should.
That would be like,
we should tell you exactly when you were born. Yes, if you were born at all.
If you were ever born. Well, we were all born, I hope.
I know.
Unless we were created in a lab.
That out there.
I feel like sometimes people are created in a lab.
Okay, so
all right.
when you started your podcast,
Mm-hmm.
you did not have the same equipment you have now.
Oh, no way.
You did not have the same microphones,
Mm-hmm.
the same phones,
Mm-hmm.
the same guests on your show,
Right.
the same way you do it,
The same premise.
process, the same premise, the
right.
same everything.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you see people that they just feel like they've chosen the lane, they have to stay in that lane forever?
Yep. Well, and see, the thing I think is when like you create this plan or this idea that you're going to make this decision and go this way without giving yourself the ability to change your mind. But I believe that the action creates the plan.
Sure.
I feel like when you take a step, you realize, oh, I didn't realize that these kind of microphones sound this way, or this kind of image is what comes off of this camera. That I like it or I don't like it, and then I make a decision moving forward, or whatever that decision is. I didn't realize when I got into this house that I liked being able to see all the way through it. But now that I know that, I know what I'm looking for.
Right.
But you don't know until you start.
You don't.
So you got to do things. You got to take action. You got to eat the apple fritter one bite at a time.
One bite at a time. But eat the whole thing.
Eat the whole thing, but not at once.
Don't let it go to waste.
No, you don't. Wasting apple fritter is the worst thing ever.
The donut shop would just...
You should be hauled away. You should be hauled away if you don't finish
Sign
your
a
apple
contract.
fritters. Sign the apple fritter contract.
That's right. I commit hereby to eating the whole fritter once I begin.
Oh,
Yes,
that's good.
yes.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much for coming. I guess I came here.
You
Thanks
know
for
what,
letting
though?
me
Awesome.
come.
Thanks for coming here.
So good. It's my pleasure.
But before we close,
Yes.
you came here
Mm-hmm.
to get it done
Yes, absolutely.
because there was no other way.
Yep.
I couldn't come to you.
Mm-hmm.
My schedule doesn't permit it, but you engaged in that decision. You made it for good or for worse, for better or for worse,
For better, for worse.
and for gooder or for worser.
For gooder or for better.
Exactly. It's for better or for better.
Yeah.
You came
I did.
and you got it done.
And we did it.
Thanks for
and it
coming.
was an epic podcast, I think.
Hey,
I mean,
we just need to
Whenever you get a chance to podcast with Mufasa, it's a good day.
Thank you.
All right, guys. This is the Do Things podcast. I'm Todd Frazier. This is Aaron Zapata. And we will see you on the next episode. Thanks for checking out the Do Things podcast. We are so glad that you are a part of this community. Remember, if you're going to post about Do Things, hashtag Do Things is our hashtag that we use all the time. You can get Do Things merch at the dtapparel.com shop. Check it out. We got hats, all kinds of stuff, hoodies, t-shirts, you name it, we've got it. All right, guys, remember to subscribe, share with your friends, and most importantly, go out there and do things.